Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely mind-bending. We're going to bridge the ancient wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, specifically the incredible 15th chapter, with modern quantum science and astronomy. We're going to explore how the vast emptiness of outer space, the three voids described in the Upanishads, perfectly connects to the space inside our own minds. It's essentially a guide to finding profound clarity, excelling in our actions, and finding real peace in our pretty chaotic modern lives.
But hey, before we start looking up at the cosmos, let's look at ourselves for a second. Have you ever just stopped right in the middle of a super busy, successful week and wondered, is there actually any absolute standard of morality? Like, what is the real purpose of this life? It happens to the best of us. You work your absolute heart out, you hit a certain level of career success and security, and then bam, a midlife crisis of meaning just knocks the wind right out of you. You've got the skills, you've got the energy, but suddenly, no clear direction on where to go next.
Right, so let's really dive into this, because without a solid framework to answer those big existential questions, we're kind of in trouble. I mean, even highly educated, super hardworking people who ignore this crisis run a huge risk. They risk basically sleepwalking through the rest of their lives like unfulfilled, aimless zombies. Nobody wants to lead a boring life only to wake up later and regret not manifesting their full potential, right? So, to avoid that trap, we need a map of reality.
Section 1. The Cosmic Peepal Tree, an Inverted Reality. To give us this map, the Gita introduces a brilliant visual metaphor called the Ashwata. It's described as an eternal, inverted peepal tree that represents samsara, basically the ever-changing, phenomenal material world we're all tangled up in. Now, just to be super clear, this is an Upanishadic symbol, okay? We're not talking about a literal, physical tree growing upside down in the sky. It's a metaphor for this convoluted mass of pain, sorrow, and temporary experiences that can totally consume us if we don't understand how it works. Getting a grip on this structure, that is step number 1 in the art of living peacefully.
So, why exactly is it upside down? Well, in this ancient philosophical language, above doesn't mean literally up in the clouds. It means subtler, or of a higher reality. So the roots are above, symbolizing the unseen power, the infinite substratum, or Brahman, that supports absolutely everything. And the branches? They stretch below into our everyday gross material world. You know, the world of senses, physical objects, our daily attachments. Essentially, the unseen causes the seen.
Section 2. 3 Realms of Reality, the Universe, and You. And this brilliantly illustrates how these 3 levels of reality actually stack up. First up, we've got the Kshara Purusha, which is the perishable. This is the whole gross and subtle manifested world. Everything that changes, everything that dies. We're talking millions of galaxies, our physical bodies, all perishable. Then step 2 is the Akshara Purusha, the imperishable causal world. Think of this as the seed state, the dormant tendencies, and the causal universe that actually survives even when physical forms are destroyed. And finally, at the very top, there's the Purushottama, the Supreme Person, or pure consciousness. The Purushottama is the ultimate goal here. Why? Because it's fundamentally superior to both those perishable physical forms and the imperishable causal seeds. It's superior precisely because this Supreme Being pervades and sustains all 3 worlds. It is the pure, self-effulgent consciousness that literally illuminates everything else, from the massive cosmic scale of galaxies right down to the tiny digestive fire keeping your own body going.
Section 3. Ancient Wisdom Meets Modern Science. Let's see how this builds into something even more fascinating. When we look at the physical space studied by modern astronomy, what the Upanishads call Bhutakasha, or the physical void, the Gita teaches that all this manifested reality is really just a temporary transformation of one single underlying substance, Prakriti. And guess what? Modern physics agrees completely. Einstein's famous E=mc² proved that matter and energy are totally interconvertible. There's no fundamental solid stuff out there, it's all just temporary patterns of energy.
It gets even crazier when we look at the concept of voids. The Upanishads famously describe 3 voids: Bhutakasha, the physical outer space of astronomy; Chittakasha, the inner mental space of our thoughts; and Chidakasha, the ultimate space of pure consciousness. Amazingly, as modern science tracks physics all the way down to the quantum level, beneath physical space, it hits what we call the quantum void, or zero-point energy. This maps absolutely flawlessly to the Gita's Akshara, that causal substratum of the universe. The vast outer cosmos of astronomy and the tiny inner quantum seedbed are fundamentally connected. It's just mind-blowing.
Following this cognitive ladder, science pushes its own envelope from the physical space-time construct down through that quantum void and ultimately points toward a ground consciousness. And honestly, this is the exact same journey a spiritual seeker takes. You cut through the perishable branches, move past the mental space, to finally reach the supreme Purushottama. Ancient mystics and modern physicists are basically peering through two different windows at the exact same reality, reaching for that sublime wisdom at the top.
Section 4. The Axe of Detachment. Cutting the roots.
Okay, so theory is great and all, but how does this actually help us navigate our daily lives full of doubts and struggles? Well, the Gita doesn't just hand us a philosophy book. It literally gives us a weapon. Verse 15:3 tells us, "This people tree, so firmly rooted, is felled with the strong axe of detachment." Because these secondary roots grow down from the branches, our lives become this massive, entangled mess of actions, reactions, desires, and anxieties. To actually find clarity in all that chaos, we have to wield the axe of asanga, non-attachment, through karma yoga. This means you still contribute to the world, you absolutely do your duties, but you ruthlessly chop away the selfish desires and the crippling anxieties attached to the results.
Now, what's really interesting here is how incredibly practical this detachment is. It starts with finding solitude, specifically what we call relational solitude, or ekaki. To genuinely meditate and clear that mental void, you have to temporarily put down all your worldly labels. Just for a few minutes, you are not a boss. You are not an employee, a parent, or a citizen. You consciously suspend every single one of those roles to just be a spiritual aspirant. You can actually break this down into 3 specific steps to chop down your own secondary roots of anxiety. First up, relational solitude, stepping away from those roles like we just talked about. Second, emotional solitude. This one's huge. It means using pure logic to forgive yourself and others for past stupidities. You're freeing yourself from old grudges, lingering guilt, and fears about the future. Third, possessional solitude, mentally renouncing your claims of ownership over your house, your bank balance, even your physical appearance, acknowledging that they're all temporary. Doing this literally clears the muddy waters of the mind.
Section 5. Finding peace and absolute clarity.
Clearing that mind is the ultimate goal here. We're taking this ancient cosmological knowledge and transforming it into lasting emotional strength for today. And there is a beautiful, deeply logical sequence to this called dhyana yoga. It starts with abhyasa, listening to and actually knowing the words. Then comes jnanam, getting a complete, rock-solid, doubt-free understanding. From there you move to dhyanam, deeply meditating upon this meaning. This naturally, almost effortlessly, results in tyaga, true detachment, and a total absence of expectations from people and objects. And the immediate result of that detachment? Shanti, absolute peace. Listen, peace is not an accident. It is the direct, guaranteed result of quietening the mind's turbulent lake.
So, the absolutely crucial takeaway is this: true happiness comes from within. Think about it. In deep sleep, you feel completely happy without needing any sensory objects, right? Even modern neuroscience tells us that the dopamine hits we constantly crave can be triggered purely by meditation, entirely independent of the outside world. When you experience this inner joy, you completely stop depending on external people, gadgets, or situations to make you happy. You achieve true freedom. You can finally make clear, rational decisions without being violently swayed by your desires.
We've seen how the grand architecture of the cosmos, from the physical emptiness of space down to the mysterious quantum void, perfectly mirrors the consciousness that lives right inside you. The ancient science of the Gita and modern astronomy are pointing to the exact same truth. So I have to ask you, will you remain an aimless zombie, forever entangled in the messy, perishable branches of the material world? Or will you pick up the strong axe of detachment today, sever your anxieties, and finally reveal your own supreme peace?